Am I the a-hole for telling my husband's kids how broke he was when we met after they insinuated I was a gold digger? I, 38 female, have been married to my husband Rob, 52 male, for 4 years now. My husband's late wife died 1 year before we met, and we dated for 2 years before marriage. He has 2 kids, 28 Madison and 26 Brett. Note, I am not calling them my stepkids because they explicitly told me I am not their stepmom, just their dad's wife. I didn't play a part in raising them, so I'm okay with that. It's always been a tense between us. I've tried my best to be kind to them and have been generous when I can be, but they are very cold with me. Being a child of divorce, I can partially relate to a parent moving on, so I try not to force anything. Madison recently got engaged, and we are excited about it. Everyone was over recently, and she asked about a wedding budget from us, and Rob told her he was able to contribute $10K. She has bigger hopes for her wedding than this, so she was upset and kept asking for more. Rob, however, is still working hard on building his savings back up. Before his late wife died, he basically wiped out his cash savings, had to cash out his $401K, and even took a small mortgage on his house to cover medical costs as well as life expenses, since he had to cut back on working. Eventually, he had to drop that job for a more flexible but lower-paying one, so this $10K is actually really generous from him. Rob went to run an errand, and it was just me and his kids. Madison then asked me if I'm going to give any in addition to what her dad is giving. I told her we're a marital unit, and that's what we discussed together as a reasonable amount to contribute. She then said, "I should have known. Obviously, you married an older man for what he had, not for what you could give." I knew she didn't like me, but this is the most flat-out rude thing she ever said. I kinda lost it and said, "Excuse me, who do you think has been paying the second mortgage your dad took out to pay his debts?" Truth of the matter is, I make more than her father by a large margin, I have no debt, and have been paying 70% of the household bills the whole time we've been married. The $10K we're giving her is available because I've been able to subsidize her father's living expenses the last few years. I made it clear that not only am I not a gold digger, I'm literally wealthier than my older husband. She called me stuck up after this and stormed out. Then she called her dad later and said that I told her that I blamed her mother for being sick for her not having a better wedding budget. I told him what happened and he was mad at her, but also said I shouldn't have shared his financial details with his kids.
Not the a-hole, but you have to know that you're either stuck up or a gold digger to a child, even an adult one, who has determined to make you a wicked stepmother.
That's exactly why I thought I needed to tell her the truth. Just tired of that trope.
Good, she's old enough to hear it, and this is also a practical step. It's important that she and her sibling understand his financial standing, not to be a downer, but eventually, if he passes, hopefully not for a long time, you don't want to be facing accusations that you've robbed an inheritance.
Not the a-hole. He should have shared his financial situation himself. She is an adult and is old enough to understand that medical expenses are the reason there is not a larger savings. This should not feel like blaming the sick person. This is a sad reality of for-profit healthcare.
They were his late wife's medical debts. It's not like he has anything to be ashamed of. I'm assuming a long illness and him being a caretaker for a long time. It takes a toll. I see no reason to keep it from his kids, and he'd be a jerk to let them believe you're a money drain on your marriage when it's the kid's mother's medical care doing it. You must love him to help financially so he can handle that burden.
Not the a-hole, but your husband needs to have stern words with his kids. If he doesn't have a word about calling you a gold digger and then spouting lies, you maybe need to consider whether he does actually love and respect you. Perhaps he's the gold digger.
Not the a-hole. Next time Madison calls you a gold digger, tell her to hold the mirror up to her own face because asking someone to give more money is an a-hole move.
Am I the a-hole for not giving my parents the baby blanket my great-grandma made for me so they can use it for my baby sister? My great-grandma made a baby blanket for me when my mom was pregnant. She did that for all her kids, grandkids, and then great-grandkids. I was the youngest until now. Great-grandma would make it clear to the parents involved that the baby she made the blankets for should be considered the owner's, and it shouldn't be something they kept from us. So this is what always happened. I always had mine. My parents did try to take it from me a few times, but great-grandma stepped in each and every time. I loved mine because she had started experimenting with her knitting, and my blanket is more unique than the rest and feels just a little more personal. I treasure it despite being a 17-year-old guy. I treasure it more because great-grandma died when I was 10, and I miss her like crazy. So my parents couldn't have more kids for years. They tried for years and even did IVF when I was 7, but didn't have another kid from it. Their focus being so set on that, I always felt like I wasn't good enough. This is something extended family brought to their attention a few times. It was comments like, "I just want a baby so bad. I can't imagine my life without a child," from my mom, and comments from my dad like, "We feel so incomplete without a baby," that would get family members to take notice. Those were some of the kinds of comments that left me feeling as I do. It was never another baby. It was always a baby, like I was invisible. They talked about having a baby being their biggest dream. It stung so much to have their life focus around that, and they'd get so depressed about not having a baby. Great-grandma, before she died, told them to be thankful for the blessing, aka me, and how they already had a baby, and they were letting me grow up without them. It didn't change anything. And I did basically grow up without my parents. They have no idea who my friends are or what's going on in my life. This was a surprise pregnancy, and my parents are so excited. They did all the early tests to find out they're having a girl, and they started shopping and all kinds of stuff for her. But then my mom got sad because great-grandma isn't around to knit her a blanket too. So they told me they wanted mine. They didn't ask, they told me, and when I said no, they grew angry. They said she deserves to have a blanket from great-grandma and their baby needs one. I asked what I was, and they said, an almost grown man. I left the blanket with my best friend because I was afraid my parents would search the house to find it. They were so pissed, and they started doing the guilt trip saying my baby sister deserves better. And how can I look at myself in the mirror knowing I don't want to share this with her? They told me it's like I don't even want her to exist, or I hate her for something and she's not even born yet. Am I the a-hole?
Not the a-hole. The blanket is yours. It was smart of you to give it to a friend for now. Don't give it up. It is heartwarming. It means so much to you.
It means so much. I think a part of the reason it means so much is because it makes me feel wanted. Like great-grandma loved me, and that blanket is an expression of that I never feel or get with my parents.
Not the a-hole, your parents' comments are so weird. But out of interest, you said she made blanket for all the kids, grandkids, etc. So basically your parents have their own blanket to give to the baby.
Yep, my mom has one, and she could give it to their baby if that's so important. But I think this is just another way of them pushing me out.
Not the a-hole. Don't let you be guilt-tripped by them. It seems they just want a baby. Something to cuddle and who is depending on them. And as soon as the baby outgrows to need them all the time, the baby is basically an adult, and they want another baby. I'm sorry that they are like that to you. And no, it doesn't mean that you hate the new baby. It means you don't want to share what you got from a beloved family member with the child that was always hold over you, even way before it existed. It was a wise decision to leave the blanket with your best friend, because it sounds like your parents wouldn't respect your wish. Hope the rest of your family treats you better, and you have someone to talk to or relay on. Best cut off your parents as soon as you can or go low contact. Don't think that they will even notice until you will get a parent yourself, and they could spoil another grand baby.
They were like that before I even grew up any. They were already very focused on another baby before I turned 1. I was dropped off with extended family all the time back then, so they could work on baby number 2. Maybe they wanted a daughter badly, or maybe they struggled to connect with me. but they didn't even bask in all the baby time they had with me before their focus moved on. The rest of my family, well, most of it anyway, are good, and they don't treat me the way my parents do or like the way my parents treat me.
I can see this playing out two ways. Either your sister's going to be the obvious favorite do-over baby, and they'll basically rub it in your face daily that they treat her better, or history will repeat, and your parents will practically calling around for a sitter from the maternity ward. Either way, my advice is to keep your head down and quietly arrange to move in with another relative or your friend on your 18th birthday, because either your stuff's going to get destroyed by a feral toddler who you're not allowed to say no to, or you're going to become an unpaid nanny.
What do you think of these stories? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos.